Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by GoToWebinar, a trusted webinar platform with over 55,000 customers who have hosted over 2.7 million interactive web events to connect with their audiences. For more, visit gotowebinar.com/podcast. And by Eero. Never think about Wi-Fi again with Eero's hyper-fast, super simple Wi-Fi system. And now the second generation Eero is tri-band and twice as fast. For free overnight shipping to the United States or Canada, visit Eero.com. Select overnight shipping at checkout and enter the code KNOWHOW. Today on Know-How, it's a Christmas feedback episode.
Lights, droids, your questions and our answers.
Welcome to Know-How. It's a Twitch show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I am Father Robert Balasair.
And I'm Patrick Delahanty.
And Merry freaking Christmas. Well, almost. It's almost Christmas. It's a couple of days.
2 shopping days left.
Precisely. So stop shopping, go home, and just enjoy your friends and your loved ones. But folks, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to drop a little Christmas knowledge on you. Now, we've got a couple of questions about gear that you might be receiving during Christmas, or about projects you might want to make after Christmas, or about a few things that fit into the Star Wars Christmas.
It is that season.
It is kind of that season. But we wanted to end the year. Of course, there's one more episode next week, the best of. But we wanted to end the year with just sort of taking a look at some of the things that you've had on your mind, and hence the feedback episode. Now, Patrick, we have at the end of the show a preview of 2 projects that both of us have been working on for a while. Mine is right here. It's the way blown out ZPM from Stargate. Now, of course, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this because you can't even see it. But this is something that I've had on the back burner for a while. I've been toying around with it. I'm finally getting to the point where I think, okay, I could turn this into a project now. You've been working on something from a different sci-fi universe.
Yes, I've been wanting to have a droid from Star Wars for a long time. So we can talk about that. You
know, my favorite droid from the Star Wars saga is not R2-D2 or C2.
K2SO?
No. I kind of like the little teeny tiny one that goes beep, 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 beep.
Oh, the mouse droid.
Beep, beep, beep. Yeah, so if you could build that, I'll be very, very happy.
All right, I'll get on that.
But before that, let's go ahead and run into some of the questions that you've all had. This one comes from Bob Klingen. How would you say that? Klingen, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Bob has the following question. He says, I want to mount a 3 to 4 foot strip of LED lights under the cabinets above my work area. This looks pretty simple with a huge light strip, but kind of expensive. Yeah, it's $100 to $200 depending on how much you want. Can this be achieved in DIY fashion more affordably? Pointers to any previous episodes that might be helpful are appreciated. I'm a relatively new viewer here, so I'm sure there might be something out there. And Bob, yes, actually, we've done a lot of stuff with lights, and specifically in this type of application. Low-cost LEDs, so they don't use up a lot of power, that can be assembled to do pretty much anything you want.
Yeah,
right?
And I know some hosts on the Twit network have the color lights behind them. And so this is a good podcast background. You can have the different colors behind it.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. The Hue light setup is nice, and any of the pre-bought LED setups are nice. You can control them via various automation systems from the Voice Assistant from Amazon and so on and so forth. But there is something that is to be said about building something yourself to fit. Now, if you've got a workbench, there's 2 ways that you could do it that we've done in the show. The first one, and we'll be dealing with later on, is called WS2812. These are the individually addressable LEDs. Essentially, every LED has its own IC, and you can address every LED in the string. It doesn't sound like that's what he wants. He wants work lights, so he just wants to be able to illuminate them, maybe change the color to add a little bit of mood, but it doesn't sound like he wants to animate them.
Yeah, so no Knight Rider, Cylon back and forth.
Right, it doesn't make sense. If he's going to be
cool,
putting it underneath a cabinet,
yeah.
I mean, you don't really see it. You'll just see kind of the muddled colors.
Yeah, you want white, but then you may want to change it to be something more festive for the holiday season.
Precisely. Now, there is a store-bought option. And Alex, if you go to the first link here, it's not going to cost you that much. This is going to be about $14, maybe $16 if you get it with the power supply, which I would suggest you do, because that power supply is going to be useful for our project. This is a strip of what are called 5050s. Those are some of the brightest LEDs that you're going to find. They run on 12 volts. And that little unit, actually, Alex, if you go back, that little unit, along with the LEDs, it's also going to include that remote control and that control unit, which will allow you to power them, and then you can just change the colors with the buttons on that remote. Now, here's the thing. That remote and control unit are horrible. I've had a lot of them. They're terrible. They work fine, and then for some reason, like 6 months in, they stop responding or they send the wrong colors. It's very, very strange. I think it's just because it's super cheap. However, that's still the way to go. That strip is much cheaper than WS2812s.
I got something very similar to that at IKEA. I was passing through in the maze on the way to checkout and saw something like that. It was about the same price, but they were rigid strips and they were shorter. But I put it behind my TV, and so now I can have that mood lighting.
Right, and actually Russell, our IT guy here, he has purchased a few of them for what we're now calling the plenum space, where Alex lives. But it's basically just the strips, but they've mounted it on some sort of stiff backing.
Right.
Well, we're just going to take the strips because we can make our own backing. If you want to use a 3D printer, you can do that. Or if you just want to like buy a 2x4 and glue them on, you can do that too.
Yeah, just stick it onto the bottom of the...
Precisely. Yeah. But this is what it looks like. Actually, this is that exact strip that I just showed you in the link. So, unlike the WS2812s, there are no ICs in here. There's resistors for driving the individual LEDs, but the strip is wired up all in parallel. So there's 3 leads plus common. So I can either light up the red side, the blue side, or the green side, and I can do combinations of them. So send this much power to green, this much power to blue, this much power to red, and I can get all the different combinations of colors because those are my primary colors, right? RBG, I can make pretty much everything. Now, you could use that control unit, but as I said, it's kind of dookie. It's garbage. It will fall apart. Why not? Why not make something on your own?
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for, and actually that's what we did. We, in like episode 300 or so, we actually created a little control box, a nano box, that will drive this. Now, if you go over the overhead out here, Alex, inside, super simple circuitry. There's this, that's an Arduino. We've seen those before. Those cost about $3. This is the new piece. This is actually an Arduino-driven LED driving board. Now, we've got a link for this, Alex. It's going to cost you about $8 to $9. I actually bought about 30 of these things, and it got the price down to like $2 each. They're really, really useful because they allow me to do something like a WS2812, but at a greatly reduced power point. A strip of WS2812s this length will probably cost me $30 to $50 versus $10. So obviously there's some price performance here. All right, so let's look at how this looks. I've got this wired up. I'm going to give it 12 volts. I can actually give it anywhere between 12 volts and about 15 volts before burning this thing out. It's going to go through this little UBEC. The UBEC's going to supply 5 volts to the Arduino and 5 volts to the driver board, but the LEDs are going to get the full 12 volts. And this is what it's going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it into this, like so. And I'm going to take my power and plug it in here, like so. Or I'll do it the right way. There we go. So the code that I have written on there, all it's going to do is it's going to flip between the 3 colors. So it's going to go red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green, blue. It's sort of on an automatic cycle thing here. And we'll show you the code in just a bit of how this actually works. But this is super, super simple. This is probably the easiest way to get your workspace illuminated, and it wouldn't cost you that much. What you see right here between the driver board, the Arduino, and the strip, this is less than $20. Wow. So, I mean, for $20, you get 16.4 feet of LED strips, and you can put it anywhere.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. It's kind of mesmerizing, actually. Look at that, just, it's comfortable. Yeah. And okay, that's done. Sorry. Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I just Waking you up from your
just wake
your
me up from
daze.
my Zen nap. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and show you a little bit of the code that actually makes this possible. Alex, if you go ahead and switch over to my computer while I get the Arduino connected, very simple code. There is a library called rgbdriver.h. I'm actually going to include this in the file that will be downloadable via our show notes, so you don't have to copy anything off the screen. This will allow my Arduino to address the driver board, so it will give me all the language I need. Now, this just gives me the clock pin and the digital pin. Those are two things that are on the board. I'll do a full episode on this later on. You don't need to know that at the moment. And then there's this, the setup. There's nothing. I don't need anything. It's super simple. And then for my program, I'm just running this. This is just a function called fade. And all this will do is it will go for red, start red at 0, and then go up to 255, and then go blue from 0 to 255, and then green from 0 to 255, and then go backwards. So yes, that's all it does. It fades in the red, fades in the blue, fades in the green, and then fades out the green, fades out the red, and fades out the blue.
And that's why it goes dark at one point. Okay.
Precisely, precisely. So it's just values. Unlike the WS2812s, because when we'll talk about how WS2812s work later on in the show, which I am creating an array of data and then sending down commands for each LED. This, I only get one command. So I can say how bright is my red, how bright is my blue, how bright is my green. That's the only thing I could do. Very simple, very easy to program for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, you're probably going to want a little bit more control than just that. So I wrote this. Now, let me make sure this is sending the right thing. It's a nano. It's going to COM4. Go ahead and send it. What we want is we want a way to actually control this. Now, I'm going to control it through the serial console on my computer because that's what we have right here. But this could just as easily be controlled by a button you have on the console somewhere, or you could watch our episodes on reusing your IR remote controls, and you could control this via a real remote control. And that's actually what I've done. And it lasts so much longer than that junky piece of Feiyu that comes with the pack itself. That's actually a pretty good way to do it. So I've uploaded it now. So here's what I've got. If I open up my serial monitor, I can actually send commands now, like so. And if you go there, if you go to the table, I can actually change the color at will. There you go. See?
Yeah.
Boom, boom. And I can even do this, which will put it back into the animation pattern. So this is code, again, that I will give to you. I'm selecting it via my keyboard, just via a bunch of if-else statements. But you could do it via case statements over a remote control. You could do it over the internet if you wanted to use the Cayenne, which we've also shown you how to do here on Know-How.
Or just have buttons on here, or potentiometers.
Precisely, yeah. You could put knobs. I want a little bit more red, or a little bit more green. Or make it super simple, have one button that you press, and it just toggles between the different colors that you've programmed. So it's infinitely expandable. And again, you're talking about $20 versus $200. So yeah, this is a lot more economical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many options.
One little thing, Patrick.
Oh,
yeah.
What's the catch?
It's not a catch, but it is sort of a warning. This could happen, so you probably should know about it. And that's this. If you go to the side view, this is what happens to these strips after you've used them for a while. See how the silicone is yellowing?
Oh. Right.
That's just a thing. It doesn't really affect the strip, but it does. It gets really ugly. It gets super. This has been out for like 3 years, but you can see it doesn't look real good anymore.
But it still lights up fine, right?
Yeah, it still lights up.
So if you have this strip hidden underneath a cabinet, you're not going to see it, and the lights will still come on. So it's no problem.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But what I would do is, if you can, and it's hard to get this because very few places sell it, you can actually buy the strip without the silicone.
Oh.
And when I've done installations before, I've actually peeled silicone off. That is a pain. So if you can buy it without it, it's much better. Much better for cooling, and then it doesn't yellow. I put it in little 3D printed enclosures with transparent material over the top. That lasts, that always looks nice. But again, if you're mounting it under a shelf somewhere and you'll never see it, and this ain't a bad solution.
But you probably want the silicone if it's in an environment where it needs to be protected, where it's wet.
Yeah, this will make it waterproof. I can actually dip this under water, and it will still work just fine, but I wouldn't recommend that. Like, don't install this in the shower. Just because, I mean, if it happens that there's a crack in the silicone, that would be bad.
What about outdoor use?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's 12 volts. So, you know, the chance that it's going to short out and cause a fire is minimal. And again, just like last episode, it's weird how so many things in know-how say, well, but it could cause a fire.
Well, you just put strips along the edge of your house, and then at Christmas, boop, just plug it in. You can control all the lights.
See, folks, this is what we do in know-how. We drop knowledge on y'all. We drop knowledge. Okay, that's a workplace lighting project. However, we are going to do a Christmas lighting project in just a bit. But first, we got one more question. If you want to take this one's from Heath Reader.
Yes, Heath writes, hey guys and gals, my 3D printer will arrive tomorrow and I need to order some filament. Any suggestions? I would prefer to order from Amazon, but it's not a must. Also, what is the modeling program that Padre suggested?
Yeah, okay, actually good question, and they're very simple to answer. There's actually 3 companies that I trust for filament, and people will say, you trust this? Yes, this is actually important. You can buy crap filament. You bought crap filament. Sorry, Monoprice, right?
Yes, I got it from Monoprice. That's where I got the 3D printer. I figured, well, this will work best with their printer.
Yeah, not so much.
I was fooled.
You were fooled. It does matter because a company needs to design their filament to fit a certain dimensional accuracy. Otherwise, it gets too big, too small. And what will happen is, if you're not pumping enough filament through the head, you end up with voids. And that's bad. You've just destroyed the print.
And that glow-in-the-dark filament that Tony bought is terrible.
It's horrible. It doesn't stick to anything. It just falls apart after it's printed.
There's voids in it when it's printed. Yeah. Big bubbles because of the glow-in-the-darkness.
So you're looking for filament that is of just about the right dimensional accuracy, either 1.75 millimeters or 3 millimeters. Those are the popular sizes. You need one that's dense. So in that 1.75 millimeters, there's no bubbling. There's no overt twisting of the filament. You want filament that's wound properly. Believe it or not, there are companies out there that wind their filaments so that they tie themselves into knots, which is wonderful when you're in the middle of a print and basically the print head is fighting with the spool of filament. That's special. That's a special kind of hell. I have agreed on 3 companies. The first one is Hatchbox. And Alex, if you go and go to this link, they're all over Amazon. He said he'd like Amazon because you can get it delivered for free. But go and scroll through those. You're going to find these rolls between $23 and $33, depending on the color and the type of filament. I would suggest PLA instead of ABS just because it's not toxic. It's easier to print. Good accuracy, 1.75 plus or minus about 5%. It's prone to breaking if left out for extended periods of time. This is one thing that I have found. I've used Hatchbox almost exclusively since I started. And if you leave the filament out, it becomes brittle. And then it tends to snap, and I don't like that. But it's been a very good filament for me, and it's very popular, so they're obviously doing something right. Yeah. The other filament that I might recommend is this. I just found this over the summer. Amazon was promoting it for a while. It's called AMZ3D, Amaze 3D. I guess that's probably what they wanted to say.
Amazon.
Amazon 3D. I don't know. If you go and go to the link for this, it is much cheaper. So between $23 to $33 for the Hatchbox. This is $16 to $26. Wow. So it is cheaper per roll. These rolls are better. They actually fit on the spools better than most of the Hatchbox rolls I've bought. I will also say they are very, very good with transparents. So if you want to do transparent materials, I will take theirs over Hatchbox any day. Hatchbox, I think, still has the quality measure on solids, but when it comes to transparents, this is my stuff.
Yeah, I like that it's shiny.
Yeah, I know, right? Right. There is one more company that I would recommend, and that's eSun, but only for specialty. If you go to the link for this, I typically use eSun when I'm doing like some special bronze or wood filament. Remember, specialty filaments they're a bit more finicky to work with. You can't just drop them in like you would PLA or ABS. But what eSun does really well is PETG, which I think is polyethyl toluene glycol, or something with science words. About $26 a roll. It's more expensive than PLA or ABS. However, it's got more strength than ABS without the toxicity of ABS, so you could use it for things that are going to come in contact with the human body. Also, their transparents, or PETG, are much closer to actual transparent. Transparent in PLA or ABS will get you like a diffuser look, right? You can see through it, but it's just like the ZPM I made here. You can see through it, but not like through it.
Right.
PETG will actually give you, if you print it right, it look like glass.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nice. It's really, really nice. So there you go. Those would be my 3 favorites. Hatchbox, AMZ3D or Maze D, whatever it's going to be, and eSun. All of those can be found on Amazon, and all of them will run you between $16 and about $20 or $36. So you take your pick, you go with what you like. As for the program I always suggest, I use Tinkercad. There are far more advanced programs on the market than Tinkercad, but Tinkercad has a couple of things going for it. One, it's free. Two, it's on the internet, so I can share it with anybody, and I can access it from any computer that has a browser. And three, here's the cool thing. It's actually run by a company that does 3D modeling software for professionals. It's an AutoCAD company. So yeah, we're going to show you just a little bit later, so I'm not going to demo it right now, but Tinkercad is definitely what I would suggest. Have you done a lot of design yet, Patrick?
I haven't done a whole lot, no. I made a shower hook.
Well, that's a start.
Yeah, simple.
I think most people who get a 3D printer, they start with things they download from Thingiverse.
Oh yeah.
Right, just to sort of test it out, and then slowly they'll take something that they get, drop it into Tinkercad, maybe make a couple of modifications, and boom, you've got a new. In fact, one of the things I would always suggest is, like, if you want to design a Raspberry Pi case, download a good Raspberry Pi case from Thingiverse, drop it into Tinkercad, and then make parts, like match up all the parts, and then delete the original template. That's just to sort of give you an idea of how it's supposed to look. Until you get up an inventory of things that you've designed, which you can then pull in and say, well, I want this plus this plus this plus this. Go ahead and borrow from the community, and always give attribution. It's always nice to show people that you care about the stuff that they made.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, what we need to do is do a little bit of networking. So let me get my networking setup out here, because we've got some people who have some network issues, and they're going to need a little troubleshooting. We know that some of you may have received routers for Christmas. Some of you may be looking at networking gear, so we're going to help you in just a bit. But first, let's go ahead and take a moment to thank a sponsor of this episode of Know-How, and I'm so happy to have these guys back. I've used their product even when they were no longer a sponsor, because they're one of the easiest ways to set up a webinar, and one of the easiest ways to set up a group of people who are going to listen to a presentation. And of course, it's GoToWebinar. Now, GoToWebinar is the webinar platform that's hosted 2.7 million interactive web events with over 60 million views per year. Just think about that. Think about those raw numbers. GoToWebinar believes webinars are one of the best ways to interact with your prospects and customers instead of business presentations or company websites. That's basically like PowerPoint poisoning. Now, with GoToWebinar, you can create custom email invitations, confirmations, and reminders, or let GoToWebinar handle it with automated email templates. You can display your company logo and custom image on all webinar materials so you can keep your branding. That's important, especially if you spent resources, time, money on a branding. You can create and schedule pre-recorded webinars that are as interactive as live events. And it's mobile friendly. This is important. You can schedule a webinar, edit a session, or track performance from your iOS or Android device. You can create up to 20 polls before the session or on the fly for audience interaction. You can also add up to 20 questions to a survey and engage participants with Q&A. It's always nice to have a little bit of interactivity to make sure that your audience is understanding what you're trying to present. You can engage your audience with more than one presenter and panelist. Up to 6 presenters can share their webcams and participate face-to-face, and you can broadcast a view of your desktop or a specific application. And with GoToWebinar's reporting and analytics, you're just a click away from qualified leads, metrics, and data to improve webinars. You'll have end-to-end 128-bit AES encryption, and it's rated #1 in customer satisfaction because they know what you need to present your content. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to turn your next presentation into a conversation with GoToWebinar. For more information, visit gotowebinar.com/podcast. That's gotowebinar.com/podcast. And we thank GoToWebinar for their support of Know-How. Okay, Patrick, we've got a new one here. Evidently, there's always going to be problems in networking world. So we're going to have to bust out the computer, not just to show code, but also to show an interface. Let's do a little bit of network troubleshooting for John D. Hawkins. And what's his question?
John writes, so I was describing how awesome the dynamics of the group are to my wife when I realized I've been fighting an issue that Kitas might be able to help with on my home network. Connectivity drops from my laptop, and when I go to log onto the router, it says that my IP information has changed and the page will refresh. The page refreshes and I'm up and running. It wouldn't be a huge deal, except it happens pretty frequently. I tried giving my laptop a static IP address on the router, but it didn't seem to do anything. Would it help to put the same static IP on the laptop itself?
Yeah, that's a good question, and actually it's something that people have run into a lot, especially with some of the lower-priced ASUS routers. Now, this is my favorite. I've got a dozen of these now. The Synology series, between the 2600 and the 1900, that's my jam. I love it. They work really well. They update automatically, but they are a little bit pricey. I mean,
what do they run?
Yeah, they're a little on the, well, I mean, you can go between 100 and 200 some dollars. So, yeah.
Well, it could be worth it. I mean, you're using it all the time.
Precisely.
So.
But Asus also offers some very good routers, and he's got himself an RTAC 68U, which is a little inexpensive, but it's one of our recommended because it tends to work really well, and Asus does do a good job of taking care of it. Now, he also gave us some other information about his network if Google Docs will stop being so finicky. It's an Asus RTAC 68U. Its firmware is updated on the 9th of December, so it's still relatively new.
Yeah.
He's got 2G, 5G, 2G guest, and 5G guest, so he's got a couple of networks set up on Wi-Fi. He has hidden his SSIDs. We're going to talk about that. And then he's got a bunch of devices. He's got 2 Echo Dots that are loaded on the guest. He's got his Pi 3 on guest. He's got PS3 on the wireless and on Ethernet. He's got the TV on Ethernet. He's got 2 laptops that are wireless, a desktop that's wireless, 4 phones, and a tablet. So that's, it's pretty well loaded for a low-end router and for a home device.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. If you go ahead and go to my computer, Alex, I'm going to show you a couple of things that maybe you can try. The first thing is, and by the way, he has put a bit more information into his Google Plus posting, so we can eliminate a few problems that otherwise might be a troubleshooting process. The first thing you want to take a look at is if you are going to set a static, look at your local network. You are using this right now, DHCP reservation. All routers will do this, where it will allow you to take the MAC address, which is unique for that device, and say every time this MAC address shows up, give it this IP address. Now, in his troubleshooting steps, he says he tries this, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't actually assign a static. So I don't know if that's a firmware problem. I don't know if it's a device problem, but there's a way around that. And the way around it is to actually just set a static address for the device itself. Let me show you the steps here. First that you want to do is look at this. There's always a start and an end IP address range. In this particular case, the DHCP server, that's the heading I'm underneath, says it's going to start handing out addresses at 10.1.14.2, and it will go all the way up to 10.1.14.128. Anything outside of that range is fair game for me to set a firm static. Now, I'm not using 10.1.14.1 because that's the router, and I can't put another device on that. But I could use 10.1.14.129 all the way up to 254.
Right.
So I've got a big range. I follow a convention where all my statics are going to be above 200. So the way that I would do that on a Windows computer is I could just go into my network settings. I can change my adapter options for my Ethernet, go into Properties, go into IPv4, because that's what you're going to be using internally, and then I can set an actual static address. And so for me, that would be 10.1.14.200. So I'm going to say, whenever this computer is connected to this particular network, use 10.1.14.200. I have to give the same subnet mask as my network, so it's 255.255.2550. My default gateway is going to be that address I just checked, but if you need to know, go open up a command window, type ipconfig, and it will show you what your default gateway is. So mine is 10.1.14.1. So in this case, I'll put 10. Okay, get back in there. Sorry.
Oh no.
Yeah, Windows decided that. Well, I hit that key, so that's my bad. I hit escape. Was it 10.1.14.200? 255, 255, 2550. Oh, not 525, 255. And my default gateway is 10.1.14.1. Now, as for the DNS addresses, I was already going to set a static DNS address of 8.8.8.8, because that's Google. and 208.67.222.222, and that's OpenDNS. What this will do, if I've done it correctly, is I am no longer relying on the IP, on the DHCP server. So if I go to my IP address, I am now 10.1.14.200, and I can still access my router. There we go. I will have to re-log in because I am at a new address, but I will no longer be jumping IP addresses. Because what it sounds like is he's being disconnected and then reconnected, disconnected and then reconnected. And every time you get disconnected from the network, the router will say, no, that session is no longer valid. In fact, you want that. That's a good thing, because you don't want someone to be able to open up a device that you've used and suddenly they can access your administrative settings. So that's a security precaution that it takes. It wipes the session clean. If I've got a static, then it's less likely that I'm going to be disconnected. There is another problem, though. Maybe, and you might want to try this first, if you go into your local network, there is this. Let's see if I can find it. There should be, it might not give it to me because I'm not in, hold on. No. I won't have it here unless I access the advanced settings. Turn up your lease time. So when you do DHCP, your router hands the client how long is this IP address valid for. You just may be set for a ridiculously low number. You might be set for like 30 minutes or something like that. Turn that all the way up. In fact, turn it up to a couple of days, because it's a home network. You're not going to run out of IP addresses, and that's another way to check. Something else to do is to turn on the logging in your router, because you may find out that the router is actually rebooting, and that is logged. And if it is randomly rebooting, then that's something wrong with the router. Have you ever had that happen? I
haven't had that particular problem. I've had the IP issues, but
yeah,
that was because I set it to a static within the DHCP range and the conflict.
Precisely, yeah. That very important. You cannot choose a static address inside the DHCP range, because another device might be given that address, and now you've got two devices on the same address. That's not going to work. It's a no bueno. One other thing, and that came from your note. You said that you had SSIDs hidden. I get it. It sounds like it's more secure. It is not even a little bit. This was disproven way back at the start of wireless technology. Hiding the SSID doesn't stop the beacon. It just tells the client not to show the beacon. If someone still wants to access your network, they will still see it. If they're just if they're just listening to the traffic, they will still see your SSIDs. So don't hide them. All it will do is it will make some less sophisticated clients disconnect every once in a while, because you're not broadcasting the SSID. So start in this order. First, turn off the hidden SSID. In other words, show all the SSIDs. Doesn't matter, just go and turn it off. Secondly, check your lease time. Increase the lease time to make sure that you're not timing it out prematurely. And then the third thing would be to go full static. So I kind of went reverse order.
Yeah. Now, have you ever plugged in an old router just to broadcast an SSID, just for fun?
You mean like FBI surveillance fab?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, there's a story of someone who did that on a Turkish Airlines flight with the SSID of bomb on board.
That's not the one I heard about.
Yeah, don't do that. That's
I heard cockpit Wi-Fi or something. But my neighbors are going to wonder who Uncle Touchy's puzzle basement is.
Why do people do that? I don't get it. I don't get it. All right, let's do one more before we take another break and get to our previews. This one is totally spirit of Christmas. We dealt with the LED strip lights, but we also want to deal with the WS2812 LED lights that we like so much on the show. We've got a feedback item from John Saunders. Patrick, what does John want?
John says, I've placed an order for two 16.4-foot WS2812B LED strips. My idea is to place them around the outside of my two-door garage and program them based on time, whether the garage door is open or closed, and season. However, I've searched and could not find the answer for this. Can you install the WS2812 data wire in a series of the two strips so the end of one strip continues to send data to strip 2? I've already planned and wired for one massive power supply to independently drive the strips, but I didn't know if the data pin was as simple as writing in series, then changing the code to include the added LEDs?
Very good question, and the reason why Patrick hesitated there is because Google Docs on a Chromebook is ridiculously bad. I'm just
large field, small screen.
Well, I mean, I've got the exact same thing in my Windows book, and it scrolls no problem. It's just whatever.
Google
Sorry,
Docs.
Google, fix it. All right, so one of my favorite topics, WS2812s. You may have noticed that I use them a lot because they are fun, because it allows me to individually address LEDs without having to run a whole lot of extra wiring. Now, let's talk a little bit about how WS2812s work. When I'm dealing with the strip lights, like we just did in the first feedback comment, all it is voltage. If I send voltage down that line, all those lights of that particular color will light up. If I send voltage down the red line, the red lights up. I send it down the green line, the green lights up. I send it down the blue line, the blue lights up. I send down a little bit down each line, and they'll light up depending on how much voltage I give them. Not real sophisticated, but the nice thing about it is that it's cheap, right?
Yeah.
But if I want to control each and every single individual light, that means each and every single individual light needs to have some sort of control mechanism, which they do in the form of an IC. You've got in front of you, Patrick, this is a strip of Christmas lights. So this is actually WS2811, but it works the same way as WS2812. I create an array of data. And each of those cells has 3 values, 3 8-bit values for red, blue, and green. I send that array down the line. Every IC will take 3 bytes off the top of the stack. It will use that as its red, blue, and green value, and then send the rest down the line. So as long as I've got a big enough array, I can change the colors of all the lights. And actually, if you go to the side view, Alex, I can show people. So that's the LED. That's the IC. So that's the little chip that allows me to control each individual LED. We've got a project that I think we made this, what, 3 years ago? I pulled this out of my my little kit. This was an Arduino inside of a waterproof kit. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in, give it a little bit of power. If I'm right, it should already have the code to run a strand of 50 of those WS2812 LEDs. Let me just go ahead and get the right power connector, like so. And then I've already soldered on connectors. So let me take that one. I actually need your side.
Oh,
it's
on the wrong end.
Okay. I'll just take this, plug this in, and if it's got the right code, boom, there we go.
Oh, twinkly.
So if you bring the lights down a little, Alex, we can get Christmassy up in this joint. So right now I'm running some default WS2812 animations, and it's allowing me to go between fades and chases. And yeah, you do look kind of Christmassy there.
I'm a Christmas tree.
You are a Christmas tree. However, what he wants to know is, can he link another strip of lights to the end of that? So if you give me that,
let's try it out.
I'll plug this in. And
no.
Womp womp. Well, the answer for this, the reason why it doesn't work is, do you remember how I told you how in a WS2812 strip, I generate an array, right?
Yeah. Your array only goes up so far.
Precisely. There's 50 lights inside of this. What's happening, this generates an array of 150 values. Each light takes 3 of those values. So by the time I get to here, which is the last of the 50, there's nothing left in the array. So there's nothing to pass. So these lights have power, but they just have no commands.
So you have to modify your code to increase the size of the array.
Yeah, and that is super, super simple. Go ahead and go back to my computer. Let's get rid of our little networking here. This is the code that's actually inside of that Arduino. So right now I've defined the number of LEDs as 50. So all I've got to do, 510, is change it to 100. Come on, 100. And now if I, let's see, I'm sending to port, I should probably plug it in. It likes it a lot more when I plug things in. I'm sending to an Arduino Uno on port 3. Come on. And send it. So this is going to upload the code, and it's going to take all of the code that I've already written, and it's now going to say, instead of 50 lights, there's 100 lights. And remember, when I wrote my animation code, I made it scalable. So as long as I define the number of LEDs, it's going to go ahead and send commands all the way to the end of this string. It's going to take a while to compile because it's using the fast LED library, and I don't think it's ever compiled on this particular computer before. But still compiling. It's about 80%. When this is done, it will upload the code to the Arduino, and automatically, assuming that I've done the connections right, that strip should start to light up. Okay, here we go. So it's stopped because it's uploading. It's done uploading. And there we go.
There we go.
And the nice thing about this is actually going to continue the animation pattern. So it's not just I've lit it up as well. It now will do the animation over the entire string.
Oh, it's starting.
There you go. Now, there is a limitation. And the limitation is all about power. Each of these will use up about 50 milliamps of juice at its maximum brightness. You add that up, and yeah, you kind of need to put a lot of juice down there. He says he's got a bulky power supply. At issue, though, is the fact that you can't really push that much amperage down this gauge of cable. You will eventually just burn it out. So what I've typically done is I will send 12 volts down a parallel line, and then I will break that 12 volts down to 5 volts at the end of every strip. And that way, every strip has a fresh supply of power to get, and it works. You can just keep putting these on as you add more lights. It's much better than accidentally setting your house on fire. Again, with the fire. My gosh, we've got so much fire.
He's got 2 garage doors to cover with this, so that's going to take a lot of these lights.
Well, you know, actually, you can make it, because I've done this, you can make it across an entire garage door with one string. So if you wanted to go all the way around, or 3 strings.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. It's kind of fun, and I love playing with WS2812s and 2811s. Unfortunately, it's probably too late for you to order any of these. If you just have the standard WS2812 strips, the LED strips, exact same code. The cool thing about this is they're designed to be hung outside.
They look like Christmas lights.
I can
more
actually,
than a strip.
I can actually drop these in a bucket of water and they'll keep going.
Now, what's the cost on this type of light versus the strip?
The strips are more expensive. These are super cheap.
Wow.
You can get 50 of these things for, I think I bought them for $5 a pop.
Oh.
Because, I mean, they're very specific. They're for decorations. Yeah. They're not for use inside of a 3D printed case or whatever. So, yeah, I bought like 40 of these things, and we use them for Christmas lights. We use them for lights around the house. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Get Christmassy, yo. Yeah. So when we come back, you know what we got?
What?
Previews.
Oh, yes.
We're all about
forward to this part.
The previews. Before we get to the previews, though, let's go and take another moment to thank a sponsor of this episode of Know How. Now, folks, I know that you are all about the Wi-Fi, right? I mean, you like the wireless. Wireless has come so far in just 10 or 15 years. I remember when the 802.11 standard was first starting to come out. Yeah, it didn't work so well. Yeah, it was slow. Yeah, it took a lot to get it set up properly, but those days are long gone. These days, we expect wireless to be seamless. We expect wireless to be fast, and we expect wireless to work everywhere. It's the ubiquitous network, which is why we are so happy to have Eero as a sponsor of Know How. Now, Eero allows you to install an enterprise-grade Wi-Fi system in your home in just a few minutes. You simply download the Eero app on your iOS or Android device, and it will walk you through each step of the process. It's quick, easy, and painless. You can easily create and share a guest network, know how many devices are connected at any given point, and check the internet speed that you're getting from your service provider to any device. Eero is protected with state-of-the-art WPA2 encryption, and they guarantee it. In fact, within 24 hours of the crack Wi-Fi vulnerability revelation just a few weeks ago, Eero automatically pushed out a fix to all of their customers. That's incredible. And that incredibly fast response time and ability to push out updates automatically sets Eero apart from other solutions and traditional routers. Now, right now, they've got their 2nd generation Eero and their Eero Beacon. Eero Home Wi-Fi systems started in early 2016, and since then, they've learned from hundreds of thousands of systems, and they've used that data to make their product better, smarter, faster, more reliable. The new 2nd generation Eero and Eero Beacon allows a customer to build a Wi-Fi system that's more perfectly tailored to their home than ever before. They offer more speed, more range, and the same high-quality, elegant design that people have come to expect, and with the addition of a 3rd 5 gigahertz radio. A 2nd generation Eero is now tri-band and twice as fast as its predecessors, which lets customers do more simultaneously in every room of their home. And with the addition of the new Thread radio, Eero can connect to low-power devices such as locks, doorbells, other sensors, and more. Expanding your coverage in any room is easy with Eero beacons. You simply plug it into a wall and you're covered. You can add as many Eero beacons as you want, and if there's an outlet, there's Wi-Fi. It's really that simple. Folks, Eero is not just another Wi-Fi system. It's the center of your Wi-Fi universe. Now, for free overnight shipping to the United States or Canada, visit Eero.com and at checkout select overnight shipping. Then enter the code KNOWHOW to make it free. That's Eero.com and enter the code KNOWHOW. And we thank Eero for their support of Know-How. Okay, we're going to get into droids and lighting projects in just a bit. But before we get there, I want to take you in the Wayback Machine. If you kind of liked this project, if you like WS2812s, if you think Christmas needs to be lit up a bit more, this is Christmas Know-How style. Now, I wish I could convince our neighbors to let me wire up their houses. The whole the neighborhood-wide Wi-Fi animation.
Oh, wow, that was
come
impressive.
On. That's awesome.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool. It's hard to do because, I mean, you have to run stuff on other people's houses. But
yeah.
The cool thing about all this is what they did and what we did is the same thing. That's the same technology. It's just WS2812 or 2811. It's just an Arduino that's pushing data, and then you set it to music.
Wow,
Not
that's
bad.
Impressive neighborhood.
It is an impressive neighborhood. Now, folks, we want to leave you with a little something that we're going to be giving you in the new year. And both of us, I'd say we're sci-fi geeks.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah? Right? Yeah. What's your big sci-fi?
Currently Star Wars, the new movie.
No, more of a Star Trek guy myself. But I'm really big into...
Doctor Who, it's coming back.
Doctor Who, okay. I'm always a Doctor Who fan. I'm always a Whovian. Expanse. I love The Expanse, but it's a little darker. But my all-time favorite sci-fi is probably still Stargate. I invested a lot of time into watching everything from the original Stargate movie to SG-1 to Atlantis to Universe, and I kind of like it. I'm invested in that stuff.
Yeah, I love Stargate. I've cosplayed Stargate. It was,
you've got a great Stargate. I don't have a Stargate
SG-1 uniform.
Yeah, I have this though. This is something that I've been working on and off for a couple of weeks. You may have seen this if you've been following me on Twitter. You know how this has been slowly improving over time. Alex, go ahead and go to the overhead. I'm actually going to disconnect this. Right now, it's still in prototype mode, but the whole idea was this is a ZPM. So if you've watched Stargate at all, you know that this is one of the most powerful artifacts that you can find in the Stargate galaxy.
It powers Atlantis.
It powers, well, 3 of them power Atlantis.
Well, you can do it with 1, but
yes.
3 you can do lots of impressive things.
Now, this is important. Remember that a ZPM it pulls 0 point energy from an artificially created pocket universe until it reaches maximum entropy. Which is techno-speak way of saying, I make a universe and then I suck every ounce of energy out of it, which is silly. But this, believe it or not, this is one of the most difficult 3D projects I've ever done because I can do symmetry. Doing asymmetrical design is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, all those crystal type things on there. How many different iterations have you gone through?
This is probably, I say it's version 2, but it's really version 2.15. I've probably done 20 different iterations.
And you've
Most
done
of them I
different
didn't print.
scales, and you've done, yeah.
Precisely. Most of them I didn't print, but in the early versions, it was just using the standard WS2812 animation. I've kind of changed it to make more ZPM-ish, so it does that golden glow. Now, there's a couple of things that we're going to have to do. First of all, the real ZPMs on the show, they have lines, black lines in between the individual crystals, so that's going to have to be painted in. But I wanted to show people a little bit about the design and how we actually put this thing together. So this is actually multiple parts. You've got the shell, and I'm going to show you how we designed the shell in just a bit. But I've got this core, or what I'm calling the pod, that has been attached to the ZPM. This is how I get it to illuminate. And again, it's just WS2812, but the design allows it to illuminate things inside without being seen. Because if you can see all the machinery that's causing it to do this, then it kind of destroys the illusion.
Right.
So what I did was I created this. And actually, let me disconnect it so the light's not so blinding. This is the lighting pod. So I've got two WS2812 rings, one on the top and one on the bottom. This long tube contains the Arduino plus a 4,000 milliamp hour lithium polymer cell. So this will drive the Arduino and the lights for something like 5 or 6 hours before it has to be recharged. Now this is not completely done, but you can see how I've gone from earlier design. So this was an early design, same idea, where I've got LEDs on that side and LEDs on this side. In this particular case, though, the Arduino was stacked on top of the battery. But when I did this, what happened was the top of the shell wasn't colored because this was blocking the light.
Right.
So what I had to do was I sort of stretched it out, but now this doesn't get in the way of that light. By the time the light gets up to this part, it's bouncing off so many surfaces that it's just diffuse. Kind of a cool setup. Let me show you a little bit about what goes into the design. So Alex, if you go to my computer, let me do this, and like so. This is what it took to design this thing. So I've got this. This is the basic ZPM design. I've already combined all of the elements here, but this is going to be a disaster. Let me open this up. In order to make that shape is actually kind of difficult. I had to combine all of these. So there's probably about 60 or 70 elements inside of here. These are all columns. These are all crystal polygons that I created using SCAD, which is a program I'm going to show you when we actually do this project. And I just kept adding them, taking them away, changing the height, changing the slant, changing the camber of entry in order to get this look. And I have gone through so many iterations, Patrick, just to get this particular look. It's a pain. It's a lot of work.
But I watched an episode last night, and it looks so much like the actual ZPM.
Yeah, and that's what we're going for. Once I add the little lines, so the actual black paint lines between the crystals, and once I color some of the crystals in different colors, like red and so on and so forth, it will look almost exactly like one of the movie props. And by the way, that's the only thing I had. I had pictures on the internet of how this was supposed to look. There is no good ZPM currently out there. Maybe this will be the first one. Now, there's a couple of design elements that I had to do with this. Let it recombine. It takes a while. It has to go through all its calculations. Come on, do it. The first thing is, if you look down here, it's kind of hard to see. Right here, there's 4 holes in the side here. That's actually where it's going to charge. There's a bunch of pogo pin connectors that I've put together, and they're going to be tied to the main power source and to the control buttons. And so what will happen is when I'm done with this design, this is a carrier. So this is also from the series. This is one of the things. Oh, sorry. This is one of the things that the ZPM would connect into. So it's actually going to be a caddy that you plug the ZPM into, so it has a place to hold it, but it will also charge the ZPM. It will charge the battery inside of the ZPM. Another concession that I made is the battery works at about 4.2 volts, so the brightness is going to be decreased if it's running on battery. But once you plug it into the cradle, it will have the full 5 volts, and it will be the full brightness. Wow. It's kind of fun. Now, the other things that I'm planning on doing for this is I need to change, if you go to the back over to this camera, Alex, I'm not happy with this. I wanted a power switch actually on the ZPM so that I could turn it off so the battery's not always running down. No, I don't like that look. That's a horrible, horrible look. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna modify the switch so that there's some 3D printed material on the top. And I need it to glow red because that's what it does in the TV.
Yeah, there's actually what looks like a switch on the real ZPM.
Precisely. So I'm, you know, there's still a lot of work to do. I am happy with the electronics. So the electronics are exactly how they have to be. I need to make clips to hold this down firmly, but this is not going to change. So the only thing that's going to change are the aesthetics of the ZPM. And the cradle, I don't know if I'm going to be happy with plastic all the way through. I think I'm going to have to figure out a way to work in a little bit of steel into that thing.
Yeah, that would probably look more authentic.
And the very first copy of this, when it's ready, I've already promised it's going to go to David Hewlett, who is Dr. Rodney McKay from the Stargate franchise. So.
Fitting home for it.
Exactly, exactly. But that's my thing. This is my preview. This is my universe. I want to see something from your universe. You said you had something Star Wars-ish. Patrick, what are you going to be building for us?
It's droid time. I've always wanted a droid from Star Wars, and I'm starting. I mean, ultimately, I want Chopper from Star Wars Rebels.
Okay, I see that.
But I'm going to start somewhere simple, and it's a mouse droid from Star Wars.
Aww. Come on, who doesn't love that droid? Now, in the movie, they just took a remote control car and put a shell on top of it, and it became an icon.
Yep. And so guess what I have to do?
You have to put a remote control car in a shell, and it becomes an icon.
So I ordered this shell. This is from Granite Earth. They do runs of these vacuum-formed shells for the mouse droid. And it's actually a lot bigger than I expected.
This is way bigger than what I see in the movie. Because in the movie, it looks
is 1-to-1 scale.
Really?
This is actually the size. Whoa. A lot of people have made replicas at about 80% scale, but
that thing doesn't look very big.
Yeah, it doesn't look big, but this is actually, it's supposed to be 22 inches long. This is 22 inches long.
Now, the funny thing about this is, I mean, my first instinct would be, oh, well, I can 3D print anything. 3D printing something of this size, no. It's no. It's not gonna work. It's gonna look horrible.
There will be some 3D printing involved with this for some of the parts.
So what do you have to do? You've got the shell, but what needs to happen before this is a droid?
Obviously, I have to put the remote control car in here, and it's hard to see. They actually have printed, as part of the mold, lines where I'm supposed to cut. And so I'm going to go over with that in a Sharpie. So
the wheels go to the corners?
Yeah, the wheels will go in there. And it has a really long wheelbase.
Yeah.
And so trying to find an RC car to go in there is a challenge. A lot of people use the RJ Speed Legends, which from what I hear is a little short for a Stormtrooper. So they have to take it apart and cut the frame in half and lengthen it. And other people use a Traxxas Bandit.
Oh, I have seen those.
And that's like a dune buggy sort of thing, but the wheelbase is pretty much what you need.
That's basically the Tamiya Grasshopper. That was a super popular model back in the 80s.
Now, to mount it in there, I need to do a frame. And so some people, including one of our Kitas, has actually done a frame that's 3D printed. I'm going to go a little simpler and use just pieces of wood.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's best to just use something that's easier to play with. I could 3D print a frame with enough parts that will eventually make it usable here, but wood is so much faster.
Yeah, and so basically I'll have the frame in here, and there's a little lip where it goes in and then out.
All right.
And so what I'm going to do is have this be kind of sandwiched in between, so you've got the little indentation here. Got it. And then the bottom will be glued on, but the top will attach with magnets.
Oh, okay.
So I can
easily
this
removed.
will be in here, this will be in the bottom, and magnets will keep it from popping off.
I think it's much better to work that way rather than, I've seen some of these done where they basically install all the components into the bottom of the shell. The problem is this is not designed to be a support member. It will flex if you put enough weight on it. So what you're going to be doing is you make a frame, hang off the components from the frame, and then the shell basically hangs on the frame or it sits on top of the frame.
And so the frame will support the RC car in here too. Some people will do they won't use an RC car. They'll actually build all the components with the servos and the turning mechanisms and everything, separate motor. That's more complicated than I want to go at this point. Maybe I can upgrade it later, but I want to get this running, so RC car. Now, to make this screen accurate, I'm going to 3D print the wheels. And
okay, if you're going to do that, don't be printing it out of PLA or ABS because it will be horrible. You maybe Ninja Flex, something with a bit more flexibility to it.
But there's 3D models out there of the wheel, the little design that it's got on the side, which is the original RC car wheels. Also on the side of this, they have what looks like computer boards with 16 and 14 pin chips.
Is that it from the movie? Really? I can't
they just stuck computer boards on the side like, oh, it's a droid. It's got computer parts.
It's futuristic. In the future, and they just hang boards off the sides of their stuff.
I'm sure they found some surplus boards and slap them on the side. And so now it's impossible. Nobody knows what those boards were. People have done runs to make their own computer boards.
I can't really see it.
It's hard to see. It's just like a little something. It's like little rectangles on the side, and so other people have done 3D printed ones. So I probably will 3D print, but ultimately I'd like the actual circuit board if I can find if somebody's doing a run of them that's cheap enough.
Very cool. Very cool. On the timeline, how long is it going to take for you to put this in together?
I don't know.
My ZPM's going to be done by the end of January, man. I mean, come on.
I'd love to have this done for Lumicon in January, but we'll see.
That's tight, yeah. Especially since you're going away. I think you're going to Maine.
Yeah, I'm going to Maine for Christmas. And actually, when this airs, I'll be there. But I also have to 3D print the little greebles that go on. There's a little rack that goes on top. And inside, for the sound effects, I'm just going to mount a Bluetooth speaker and control it from an old phone with Bluetooth, with a soundboard, and just have all the sound effects whenever I want them.
Not bad. Well, I'm looking forward to this. This is actually quite ambitious. I will help you out with some of the RC stuff.
Yes.
I will help you with the Arduino that we'll install to run the little MP3 player via Bluetooth. But yeah, I want to see how you turn this into a mouse droid, because I've always wanted to have a mouse droid.
Yeah, and as far as Star Wars droids go, they're fairly inexpensive. The most expensive thing will be the RC car that goes inside. This shell
might have a way around
this shell. They only do limited runs, so you got to get in line. But it was $60 plus shipping. The shipping was not cheap, even though it's light, just because it's big. And most of the other stuff 3D printed, or the wood was $20.
There you go.
And but there's a great resource. There's a Mouse Droid Builders forum out there where everybody shares 3D printed resources and ideas and all the information you need. And we've got the link to that in our show notes.
Fantastic. There you have it, folks. That's what you have to look forward to. You're going to be getting some ZPMs, you're going to be getting some mouse droids, and you're going to be getting plenty and plenty and plenty of projects in the new year. Well, Patrick, I want to thank you for stepping in as part of the co-host rotation.
It's been my pleasure.
It's been a lot of fun to have, when you have 3 different co-hosts, you got to play off their strengths. And it's kind of fun to see the shift in topics as we do every episode. So thank you for rolling with it, and thank you for learning along with the rest of us.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love being on the show.
Yeah. Now, folks, if you want to have any information about any of the things that we've done for this particular episode, if you want the code for the little demonstrations that we gave you, or if you want to see the actual questions from our feedback, you can always find that at our show page. Just go to twit.tv/KH. While you're there, if you're going to download a couple of episodes, why not subscribe? It is the best way to make sure that you get know-how automatically every week, and it's the best way to support us. It's a good way to give it to your friends so they can find out whether or not know-how is for them. You can choose an audio version, a video version, or a high-definition video version to go automatically every week into your device of choice. Also, don't forget that we've got a Google Plus group. This is sort of where we gather to share ideas. You can ask questions, you can answer questions, you can post pictures and videos of your builds, and we'll bring them in when we do these feedback episodes. You're going to find that at Google Plus. Just search for know-how, very short approval process, so I can keep out all the spam accounts. But once you're in, you get the knowledge base of almost 12,000 Kitas. Those are our know-it-alls. Also, don't forget, you can find us on the socials. You can find me at twitter.com/PadreSJ. Where do they find you, Patrick?
I'm at twitter.com/PDelahanty.
And you can find the third member of our crew who we have now decided lives in a plenum space. No, he's not the mouse droid. We call him Guy. You can find Guy at twitter.com/ANELF3.
Hi, Guy.
He's not doing it correctly.
I mean, technically, it's correct.
See, there you go.
That guy.
Wow, it's the first technically correct. That's technically correct is the best kind of correct. Until next time, I'm Father Robert Ballas here.
And I'm Patrick Delahanty.
And now that you know how,
Have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.